right. Hello, everybody. I hope you joined today. I want to take some time to first acknowledge that it is 9/11, and I want to acknowledge the families and victims from the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001. So, I have a special guest today. We all know and love him as Donut, and we are going to talk about a couple of interesting topics. So, stick around and we'll get into it. Donut, all you have to do is. There we go. Here we go.
What's up, Donut?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'd be better if this lighting wasn't so homophobic right now. How you
Listen,
doing?
I will not get caught with dead or bad lighting, so
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I had a little bit of a crazy week, but at least the wind and the rain has stopped, so I am hoping to get outside a little bit this weekend. But thanks for joining. I know we've been going back and forth a little bit and trying to schedule this and finally talk live. I
Yeah, thanks
want,
for having me.
yeah, of course, yeah. So I just want to introduce myself to everyone who is joining. I am Brandon. I run this little project called the Gay Body Guide, which you can find on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, not that anybody uses that anymore, and of course, Instagram. Donut, I would love for you to tell everyone who you are, and I have some questions queued up. Tell us who you are, where you live.
My name's Donut. Um, my, given government, my original name is Donick. I just recently started going by Donut. I am from LA. I currently reside in Ohio, Columbus, and I'll be moving back to California by the end of the year.
Nice.
Um, I go dance. I don't know what I do anymore really, but that's what I'm most known for, I guess.
Okay, go dances. And where typically would you go dance? Is that in LA or is that mostly in Ohio or around the world?
I mean, it's mostly in LA, but I would go all over the US like for events.
Nice, awesome, cool. Well, you mentioned that you go by Donut now. Can you tell us a little bit about why the name change?
Um, it it started when well, my name's Donick Slake, and my friends started calling me Donut Steak. And around the time I really was trying to like reinvent myself, and I really wanted to separate myself from the person that I used to be, and I just felt like um, Donut identified with me. It was a carefree name that I enjoyed, and I didn't take it too seriously, and that's kind of like just how I saw myself, and it felt good, and I liked it, so just ran with it.
Yeah, you and I talked a little bit about how you were kind of, in a sense, reinventing yourself, and part of that is obviously body and body image, but also, as you mentioned, your name change. Is there a particular label in the gay community that you identify with most, or none at all?
Um, a label in the gay community,
Yeah.
I would say I definitely identify with the bear community, and have recently been exploring the kink community, which I really enjoyed.
So
Um,
what kinds of kink?
oh, what kinds of kink? Um, all of them. I really, my kink is kind of like exploring. I kind of enjoy just exploring myself and all these different um, ways that you normally don't think about exploring or being intimate, really, and just um, just learning about that and exploring it and yeah, I really had learning a lot about myself in the process, and the person that I thought I was wouldn't have been open to so many of these things. And I've really learned that I actually can be open to a lot of things if I allow myself to be. And it's been a really fun journey of self-discovery.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely.
How bad
Y-
is the shadow on my face? Like, do I need to find another spot? It looks like really bad.
I would find different lighting. I mean, we're gay,
Okay,
so.
let's
But
go
I
here.
mean, you always look good, so
Oh,
shadow or not.
it's this way. It's fine. Let's move over here. There's this really fun mirror behind me. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
So talk to me a little bit about how when you mentioned that you thought that you were a certain way and that your mind has been opened up a little bit more. How would you describe the difference between what you thought you were and where you are now?
Um, hmm. Well, I guess that's a tough one. To put that into words, I really just I had a lot of things that I told myself that, oh no, I could never. Oh no, I would never. But really, I would see people do these things, and I would be really confused. I'm like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. Um, but I wanted to. I wanted to understand, and I wanted to get it, and I wanted to understand these people and like, what is it about this that you're enjoying?
Hmm.
And so I started exploring these things. They weren't even necessarily things I was into or that I really enjoyed myself, but I enjoyed the journey, and I enjoyed learning to understand these people, and finding what it is about these things that others enjoyed, and I learned to enjoy them myself. And um, all this person that I thought I was, where I thought I would never do these things, um, has just been like shattered. Like
Sure.
I it's it's been a lot of self discovery, and just been like, wow, you really are open to a lot of things that a lot of people look at and they're like, I would never, like I couldn't. And I was like, I remember when I used to be that way. I remember when I used to be that person who was like, I could never. And now I'm that person on the other side, like who's just having a lot of fun exploring all these things.
Yeah, yeah. What was the journey like for you coming out? Was that something that was easy for you or relatively frictionless to put you on the path of getting to where you are now?
Um, I mean, it was not easy coming out. I did want to be anyone else but myself. I I would have at the time rather died than been
Mm,
myself, and I was institutionalized for like suicide and stuff like that. Um, but once I came out, once I started exploring, and I realized that I wasn't alone and stuff. That was really really powerful. But at the same time, like in LA, I found the gay community, but I also didn't feel like I fit there
yeah.
because it was a lot of very thin
Mm,
gay men
hmm.
looking at me like, "Oh, you're hairy," and "Oh, you're fat," and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And so, although I found a community of people that I felt like I belonged to, I also didn't feel like I fit in. But in college, I found the bear community, and they just were like very like, come here, like
Yeah,
and I
welcoming.
felt, and so for the first time, I felt like, okay, I found home. But also at the same time, they were really mean to me. Um,
Why
some
is
some of
that?
them, some of them really mean. Some of them little like you know more bitchy. These two, you have them everywhere, like in every scene.
Sure.
The the mean girls kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they didn't like that I was so like accepted, getting so much like attention or something. And
Mm,
so at the same time, like I found home, but also like I didn't want to be there, and it. I had to make a choice at one point where it was either give up what I had found and stop going there, or just adapt and just be like, you know what, I don't give a fuck. And as a kid who's not used to like dealing with that, it was really difficult for me. But eventually I adapted this mentality where like I don't give a fuck, and it was a really
Yeah.
chaotic, destructive
Yeah.
mentality where I was just gonna do whatever I wanted. I didn't give a fuck, and I think that's where a lot of my self confidence came from originally, because I didn't like have any of that. But I had to be okay with being myself. Otherwise, I was destroying myself trying to make all these other people happy. It was really
Yeah.
weird, but yeah,
About how old were you when you first came out?
like 20. Well,
20. Okay.
I had like a couple friends when I was a little younger, but like when I started going out, I was like 20.
And then once you found essentially your tribe in LA, was that around the same time, or did that take some time to get there?
Oh, it took some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that the bears that were mean to you, were they fewer than the ones that were showing you love and respect and those who were welcoming?
Yeah, but it really doesn't take a lot of people to get to you. Like when I came out, it was a lot of oh, I know who you are. You're that slut who like sucks dick in the bathroom. And I'd be like, excuse me? Like I've never done that. Like what are you talking about? And like, oh, I heard about you. You have AIDS. And I was like, it was really weird.
What?
And I was like, where is this coming from? And they would like point at people. And I'm like, I don't even know that person. I've never met them. But it was like, it got to me so bad that I reached a point where it was like, I didn't want to upset anyone. So I would just like make sure I don't do anything. Like, okay, am I
Yeah.
going to kiss anyone? Am I
Yeah.
going to get my phone around? Because I don't want to be a slut. I don't want to be
Yeah.
what all these people are saying. And I essentially like just destroying myself trying to make Timmy at the club happy that I've never met, like all these
Yeah.
people. And I was like, I just don't understand why this is happening, because I don't know these people. And I've never dealt with like rumors or any kind of real attention growing up until I went to the bear scene. Um, so this is all really new for me, but
Yeah.
eventually I got reached this point where I was like, you know, I really don't give a fuck. If I want to suck a dick in the bathroom, that's what I'm gonna go do. And Timmy
Yeah.
can just be pissed off all day. Like I really don't care.
Yeah. It's not Timmy's business, right? Like,
Mm.
what do you care? Well, was this around the time that you were go-go dancing, or had you not quite gotten into that yet?
No, I had it. But this helped give me the confidence to do that, because like I wanted to do it, but I was so afraid of what people would think. But once I
Mm,
adapted that mentality where I don't care, I'm just gonna do what I want.
hmm.
If I wanted to go suck a dick, I would go do that. If I wanted to go dance, I was like, I'm gonna go do that. Like I don't care. And then I got a lot of shit for it, but it
Yeah.
was like I can't stop. At this point,
Yeah.
it was like this thing, something I've been put in motion where it's like, well, I can't stop now. I'm just gonna do everything I want to do, and everyone can hate me, and that's fine. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. The world isn't going to stop because a few people don't like you or are judging you for whatever reason. You and I talked a little bit about body image, and you've mentioned a couple of times so far that there were, you had some struggles there. What is your experience with body image? Perhaps let's
Um,
start like with before you came out, after you came out, and then once you entered the scene.
well, before it came out, like most people, the archetype of what is like sexy is like this skinny six pack, you know, white guy, no hair, um, and I'm like a thicker, hairy guy, and I was like, you know, made to feel ugly because I'm hairy and thicker, um, and I didn't ever want to be skinny. I just wanted people to stop like making me feel that way.
Yeah.
Um, I was happy with like my size and stuff, but I was in a world that wasn't happy with my size, kind of. So when I started go dancing, actually, was I saw a poster of several like bear guys, and I was like, oh my god, that's amazing! I didn't know that like bigger guys could be dancers. That's so cool. I want to try it.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to them to try to do it, and those were some of them were actually some of the meanest people I had met. Like just a couple of them.
Really?
Yeah,
Isn't that ironic?
it's so interesting. But because of that, they told me I couldn't do it, and they told me like you know they called me names and like things, and but because of them, I was able to you know what, fuck them. I'm gonna push myself to do this, and I reached out to like bars and clubs. Like I'm gonna prove. First of all, I needed to prove them wrong that I could do it,
Yeah.
And then I need to prove to myself that I could do it. And then at some point, I wasn't doing it to prove anything. I was just doing it because this is what I was enjoying doing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well,
I do, I'm still struggling with body image. I do want to be bigger. And it's interesting because I spend so much energy on trying to be bigger.
hmm
And people, it feels like people keep telling me like I'm losing weight. Like, oh my God, you're so skinny. Like, oh my God, you lost so much weight. And I know that that's normal, that a lot of people want to hear that, or that we're taught that that's good and that's what we're supposed to want to hear. But I don't want to hear that, and it upsets me
yeah.
because I spend so much of my time trying to gain and like eat and go work out or stuff, and I don't hear the, oh my God, you're looking bigger. It's like you keep losing weight, and so it's something that I still struggle with. But I do believe that you want to be happy with the body you have, but it's
Yeah.
okay to want to be better. It's okay to want a better body. It's something that
Sure.
you're comfortable with. I think the important distinction is: are you doing it for you, or are you doing it because this is what other people
Right.
find attractive?
Right.
Like I want to be bigger because when I look in the mirror, that's what I find attractive, and I don't want to look at myself and be like, damn, like But people who want to lose weight, not because they want to lose weight, but because they feel like they're fat around people or something. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's important for you to love where you're at first, and then
Yeah.
if you want to be thinner because that's the look you like, then go for it. But don't do it because you feel fat and other people have made you feel like you need to be thinner or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. I really feel like we need to stop weaponizing our community. I'm talking about stop weaponizing certain words or certain body types. It's okay to be skinny. It's okay to be fat. And one thing, I'll share is that more so when I was in school, middle school, and up through college, partially, but I got shamed for being skinny. It was always like, you're too skinny, or I got put into certain boxes because people were making assumptions about me and my, let's say, physical ability or athletic ability because of my size. And it was always kind of like, oh, you're so skinny, or oh, you need to eat, or oh, you need to put on weight. So it's almost like within our community, sometimes you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you have a bigger
Absolutely.
frame, you're shamed for it. If you have a smaller frame, you're shamed for it. If you're hairless, you're shamed for it. If you're hairy, you're shamed for it. So, it's like, what are we supposed to do?
Just be
But I
happy
think
and be yourself. What I tell
100%.
people is that you're always going to be too big for someone, and you're always going to be too small for someone. You're always going to be too hairy and too smooth all at the same time. So, like, you could be the biggest, sweetest, juiciest peach in the whole world, but there's always going to be someone who hates peaches.
Yep.
So you just gotta like just be whatever you're happy with. Also, something I want to point out is like the word skinny. When I was taking Spanish in college, my Spanish instructor reminded us like skinny actually is a word to you use to describe someone who's malnourished or they're losing weight because they're ill. Like
hmm
thin would be the more appropriate term. Like fat implies like morbidly obese when you could use like thick or stocky or something.
Yeah.
But when people say like, "Oh my God, you're skinny," it implies like
Yep.
malnourished or like
Yep.
losing weight in a sickly
Yep.
way. So
That there's something wrong with you and you need to be normal. But, what is normal?
who
First of
decides that?
all, right. And the other thing too is like, if somebody is coming at you, judging your body or making fun of your body, it speaks volumes about their character. I don't understand why people care so much what somebody else looks like. If let's just say you weren't my type, what difference is it going to make if I shame you for it? It's not going to change anything. It's just going to hurt you and make me look bad. So it's better for me to keep my mouth shut. And if I am that rigid on having a type or whatever, fine. But go where go to the next person. You don't have to like tear someone down in order. What's the purpose of that?
Well, I
What does
think
that
for
serve?
that, there's some people who want desperately for just a moment to feel better than someone. So instead of like, if they can't climb that tree, what they'll do is they'll chop the tree down so that they
Yeah.
can like they'll bring the tree down to their level if they're having trouble like raising themselves up. So
Mm,
I think when people do that, they're just really projecting like an insecurity of themselves.
yeah. Well, considering that you said that you are still struggling with body image, if I can say, taking a look at your Instagram and your Twitter, your feed is kind of raunchy and you put yourself out there. No shame, of course, but where do you find the confidence to be able to do that? and put yourself in a vulnerable position where the trolls would come in and attack you about the way you look.
I think that at one point I learned a valuable lesson that in situations where someone is going to be uncomfortable, it's not going to be me. So like if I'm in a conversation with someone and they're talking and they're talking and they're talking, and I don't want to be in this conversation, I'm uncomfortable, but I don't want to make them uncomfortable, so like I allow it to continue. And that's how I used to live. But now I'm in a position where, well, if one of us is going to have to be uncomfortable, it's going to be you. Like
Yeah,
I'm going to be comfortable, and you can just sit with that feeling of uncomfortability. So like instead of like not showing my body because other people get upset, I'm like, well, you don't have to follow me. Like I'm gonna, instead of like me not doing what I want to do to make other people comfortable, how about I just do what I want, and then you just figure it out. Like it's not really my, hey, TikTok boyfriend. Yeah, so like like I just, if I'm in a conversation that I'm uncomfortable in, I'd be like, hey, I don't really want to talk about this anymore. And
yeah,
then they could be like, they could think like, oh, you're a bitch, but guess what? I'm not. I'm not an uncomfortable bitch. Like at least I'm comfortable, and I'm not being like rude to somebody or anything. But I'm just living my life in my social media space. Like I'm not. It's like I'm venturing out of my space and going on other people's walls and like
yeah,
forcing people to be like, you're coming on my page, so welcome. If you don't want to be here, there's the door.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I mean, obviously, there's the protection, the invisible wall of the phone, the tablet, the computer, and people are more comfortable saying stuff through the internet than they probably would in person. I don't know about you, but if somebody said something to me that was crazy, they'd get read to filth. But obviously, somebody can just say something and close the computer or block you or whatever, and you don't even get the opportunity to respond. And I think there's an overall, we need to take a step back as a community and take a look at maturity as well. I personally have too much to do, and I care about other people's feelings, even if I don't know them. So I'm not going to go on somebody's wall and scratch their eyes out. The reason why I started this project is because I feel like the playing field needs to be leveled, and we need to take a look at people who are skinny, people who have a thicker frame, people who are have different kinks, and equalize it and not position one above the other. What are your thoughts about kind of the status quo of gay body norms or kink shaming?
Um, I've been a big, like I know most of us have experienced body slut and kink shaming to some degree. I have been subjected to what I believe to be um, a, um, a larger amount because of my audience, like the reach that I have. I've been like told things like you're a waste of life. You should kill yourself and donate your organs to people who deserve it.
Oh my God.
Um, amongst many other colorful, imaginative hate messages. But I used to really, when it first started, I'm telling you, like growing up, I was not used to attention. I was just that weird kid who didn't have friends or I didn't feel attractive. And then suddenly it just like all happened, and it happened a lot, and then all at once. And I used to sit there like, why don't they like me? Like, and I just couldn't get it. And I tried so hard to get them to like me, and it really got to me. But I reached a point where I realized this isn't a me problem. This is a you problem. Are you
Hmm.
okay? And
Hmm.
so now when people like reach out, go out of their way to hate me, first of all, I'm flattered that you took a minute to 2 minutes out of your day to write me a letter, because the most valuable thing we have is time. You can't get it
Hmm.
back. You can't buy any more of it. So like you spent that time on me. Thank you. Now, are you okay? Like, why are you writing me? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? Did you not get the attention you wanted? Or,
Hmm.
so it does not faze me. Like when people spend their time hating on me, I'm just like, well, first of all, like, thank you for like, I'm flattered you're focusing so much on me, but like, what's going on with you? Is everything okay?
Yeah.
I really like, I just want like, and I've talked to people like that a lot. I've met a lot of hate with love, and I have had a lot of instances where people have messaged me like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Honestly, like my friend said this about you, or I thought you were this way, but after talking to you, I've seen you're not like that, and I'm really sorry that like I came at you that way. I shouldn't have done that. And so like I have like met a lot of this hate with love, and I have had a few situations where people have grown and healed, and then it's been like a really cool thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a really good, I think, outlook and attitude to have. I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, I don't tend to put myself out there that much, particularly with this project, but the occasional troll could potentially ruin half my day. But I, to your point, have to say, look, I can't make everybody happy. That's just not possible. So I have to let it roll off my back, point blank, period. I want to shift gears a little bit. You and I, through our DMs, talked a little bit about, actually, I reached out to you and thanked you for, I can't remember exactly what the post was about, but you had gotten on someone's case about essentially being racist, if I'm remembering that correctly. And we talked a little bit about the concept of personal growth being tied to white privilege and recognizing that and shifting in your own mind about what that means and how that gets projected outward. Can you tell us a little bit about what that journey was for you? And correct me if I'm wrong about misremembering, what kind of triggered us to start talking about that, but how did that come about for you?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious I'm white. I'm actually get surprised some people don't think I'm white. They think I'm like Latino or Indian or something. I don't know, but I'm white. I'm Italian. And I did not until like a couple of years ago probably really become aware that white privilege exists and that there's all this. I really didn't see it. I didn't get it. I was one of those all lives matter people, and I'm not proud of that. And I didn't know any better. I couldn't see because of my privilege. I couldn't see it. When I saw someone being arrested, I was like, well, maybe they shouldn't have broken the law. And if they were getting beat, well, they shouldn't have resisted. And I was one of those people that I just didn't understand, and I didn't recognize my own privilege. And I wanted to understand, but it just didn't make any sense to me. And people were trying to explain it, and I was like, I don't see it. I don't get it. But I have this need to be better, where I see most people have a need to be right. Like basically, like their goal in this conversation is like, well, I need to be right. I need to come out like knowing more than you, or I need to be right in what I believe. For me, I didn't care about being right. Like sometimes I am right, and that's okay. But that wasn't the goal. My goal is like, how can I be better? How can I understand? Where can I improve? Like, please let me know. Like, I'm trying to always ask for feedback and apply it to myself. And I was talking to my friends of color and just like wanting to understand. And I didn't get it. But I kept asking, and I kept trying to get it. And eventually, like, I don't know how it clicked exactly, but I know it was because of my need to be better that I was able to keep trying to understand others. My goal wasn't to be right. My goal was I just want to understand all perspectives and then make my own decisions. So I kept just trying to put myself in other people's shoes, and no one's more aware of privilege than those without it. The people with privilege, they don't see it because the system's not going to impact them in any kind of way. It's just like an open freeway for people with privilege. People without privilege are like on the freeway with traffic, and you're like, do you not see this? And I'm like, no, I don't see it. I'm on an open freeway. Like, how would I see it? Like, I'm just going, like, But I know that because, and I think it's so cool that I started at All Lives Matter to grow to Black Lives Matter, because if I made that journey, then other people can too. And it gives me hope for other people that are there that are not getting it. I'm like, maybe if I'm able to help them understand, and I think that it's important that tribes kind of call out their own tribe. So like when a person of color comes for a white person for being racist, the white person's, you're typically going to be defensive. But when another white person's like, hey, no, for reals, you need to check yourself, like take a step back. And they're like, really? For reals? Like, it's kind of, so I think that it's my obligation, my responsibility, my duty to, when I see that, like call it out and check it and be like, hey, dude, you need to check yourself, like sit down, like let me help you understand or something, The important thing is recognizing when people want to understand versus when they want to be right. People who just want to be right, you can't help them. So when people are asking, like, I don't get it, can you help me understand? Like, that's a great opportunity, and you should probably take it. Like, help them understand. The people that want to understand, they're not getting it. Those are the people that can be helped, And the post that I made, that you're talking about, I was calling out white people. I was like, I made a post because I forgot what someone said, but I was like, stop telling people of color how to react. Stop trying to explain a situation you haven't experienced, like you couldn't understand. And I was just kind of like doing that thing, like calling out white people as a white person, just being like, everybody, like it's time, it's our time to shut up and sit down, listen, ask how we can help, how can we support. Stop telling people how to fix their problems when we haven't experienced that. Like just ask how can we support.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
saw that and you reached out and you were like, that's when we started talking.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I probably thanked you for it because it is, as a person of color, it's very humbling and I don't know what the word is, but it helps me feel more comfortable to see other people, especially other members of the white community, speaking up because often that burden of having to either educate or stick up to or stand against the powers that be or the status quo is on our shoulders. And it is a very isolating feeling to have to do that by yourself. There's been time, my boyfriend is white, and there's been times he and I are both in a store, like let's just say an art store, Michael's or whatever, AC Moore, and I get followed around the store, but he doesn't, and it's obvious that we're together. It's just little things like that that need to start being called out. And sometimes I don't even realize that there's injustices happening, but having that level of awareness to then be able to call it out and stand with people of color or other marginalized groups is, in my opinion, definitely the path toward challenging that status quo or challenging that system for sure. One thing you and I talked about is just how the gay community in particular is incredibly racist and prejudiced just in general. So, for example, there might be a lot of, let's just say, accounts out there that celebrate bears, but they only post pictures of white bears. What do what does the LGBTQ plus community need to do to begin challenging that status quo, in your opinion?
See, I think one of these things that I could be a great supporter of, but I'm not sure I'd be the one to ask because I'm a white person. Um, so I would ask people of color, like, how can we support you in becoming more main, like, what can I do? What's within my power to do to assist and like, and can I give you my platform? And can I give you like shout outs? Like if I'm booking people, like I can book you, but I don't think I would direct how to make the change. I mean, I'm sure I have ideas, but I'd
Yeah,
really like
I'd
to
love to hear.
hear. I, I would really like to hear from like people of color and their ideas, and then just support them in their way instead of deciding for them the best way to support them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Instead of like, well, this is how we're going to fix your problem. It's like I do have ideas, sure, but I think that what's important as a white person is to ask what the other people's ideas are, people of color, and then just and support that. And I can also
yeah.
give my input. But I would say, like, I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. How do we do that? How do we do that? We get people of color in the front and center of flyers. We get them bookings. You need people like me in positions where I can book go-go dancers and stuff like that. You need people like me that want to have a
Yeah,
more diverse
yeah,
group in positions of power who are going to support that and enable that instead of these people who like only believe in the white archetype kind of thing. So I think the work is like replacing those people in charge of those things,
mm,
and yeah, and us being open to like suggestions on how we can support. But I think getting people up in the front and center is important.
I would agree with that. And as you were talking, I was thinking about just like with this project in particular. It, from what I've seen and experienced, it seems like the default is to uplift, like you said, the white archetype, and whether that's a small business, somebody's picture, somebody's account, it seems to be kind of default. And what happens is, and it's not necessarily people that are doing this, it's the social media platforms too. So for example, it is, in my experience, it's very difficult to find other men of color to follow. And it seems like there's something going on, like with, I have two accounts. I have my personal account and I have this account. And often Instagram would like recommend other men to follow. For some reason, it always puts Brazilian bears in the forefront, and I'm not sure why, how that came about. I don't know if it has something to do with the hashtags I use or some of the people I follow and or that follow me. I'm not sure, but it's interesting. The recommendations don't seem to push black men, let's say specifically, or Asian men for that matter. Yes,
Do you consider Brazilian men men of color? Or
I do, yeah. And I think,
so I thought you were going to say they're recommending like just white men accounts. So when you said they're
well,
recommending
that
Brazilian,
too.
I was like, Brazilian, no, that's cool. At least it's not like he's just being fed like white people or something.
Yeah, it's definitely a specific look, but I would say Instagram, for example, does not recommend black men or Asian men, certainly Latino men for sure. So it's there's even like another layer of that question mark going on, and I'm curious to understand how that's coming about. But I want to take a moment to thank you too for posting about the guy before our chat too, and that's exactly the kind of thing that you mentioned is don't just put hashtag BLM in your profile, actually perform the action to uplift.
Me and my friend Manny back at Donuts, we during the when the pandemic was really bad, we used to go live and we would call it Manic Mondays, and we would like talk for an hour. But for when the riots were getting really bad, we both, because we have kind of popular accounts, both of us, we both handed our platforms over to people of color. We went live, and then like I would get off and he would bring on one of his guests to talk,
Yeah,
and we would just listen, and then he would get off and then I would bring on one of my guests to like talk and just share their experience and their perspective on things. And I think that that's what we can do, is really just give them, well, with me it depends on what you have to work with too. If you have a lot of money, then you can fight in different ways. For me, I have a platform, so like the way that I can fight is like giving that microphone to someone. And I remember that we did that, and I thought that was
yeah,
a good way to like for people like us to be able to support.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you for being one of very few examples out there who are willing to challenge the status quo, step up, and take the bull by the horns and change the battery and do things differently and help those of us, who fall under those marginalized groups.
Absolutely, I'm happy to assist. I've worked hard to build this platform, and I'd like to be able to put it to use and like help in any way that I can.
Yeah, well, it has not gone unnoticed. As we begin to wrap up, I have no idea how long we've been talking for, but what advice could you give other GPTQ plus men about dealing with their body image?
I think that, to put things in perspective, you are going to be too fat and too thin and too hairy and too smooth. You're going to be too tall and too short for someone always. You're never going to be perfect. And like I said, you can be the biggest, sweetest, juiciest peach in the whole world, and there's always going to be someone who hates peaches. And if someone has to be uncomfortable, someone's going to be uncomfortable. It shouldn't be you. Let it be the people who don't like you. Don't try to make yourself uncomfortable to make these people comfortable. Don't hide yourself and cover up your body to make other people uncomfortable. If someone's going to be uncomfortable, it's not going to be you. Be yourself and just be happy with what you have, and let other people be uncomfortable. Fuck them.
Yeah, yeah. If you could go back to your 5-year-old self, what would you tell him?
I wouldn't tell them shit. And I think it's funny because I think most people have some like message they want to send, but the thing is, like, I'm so happy with the person I've grown into, And I wouldn't have grown into this person if I hadn't gone through all the tough, difficult lessons and had to learn to overcome them on my own like how I did. And if I took any of that away from the 5-year-old version of me and he didn't have to struggle like he did or go through what he went through, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So although it would be nice to make that 5-year-old's life easier, I wouldn't want to affect or take any of those lessons away from him.
Sure.
You know, if I wasn't here today, you know, if I didn't make it, I'd be like, yeah, I need to go back and I need to tell him something, you know, to help him get through that. But I'm here today and I'm very happy with the person I've grown into. So I wouldn't want to like take any of that away from them.
That's awesome. Is there anything that you wanted to discuss that we didn't quite cover?
I have a lot to talk about, but nothing that comes to mind. I remember there's lots of things I wanted to say when we were talking, but we had a really good flow.
Yeah, I mean, you basically, I mean, as far as everything that I jotted down for notes, I think you pretty much hit everything. But yeah, I mean, if there's anything else you want to talk about, we can certainly go.
I think that if I could pass on like one lesson that's been like the most important for me, it would be seeking to understand before seeking to be understood.
Mm.
So before pushing your point across, which I know you want to do, and I know you want them to understand you, try to understand them first. And don't just like hear them, but listen. And also when you do that, it makes people more open to hearing you. Once they feel heard, their fists kind of come down, they're less defensive, and they're like, okay, now what do you have to say? So really it's just also understanding people is going to give you more perspective and insight, and it's going to help you guys reach a common ground, and it helps with a lot of like facilitating growth. So seek to understand before seeking to be understood.
Awesome.
I think that's all I got for now.
No, that was awesome. Where can people find you on social media?
Donut Steak is my Twitter. My Twitter is, you don't want to see that. It's just a bunch of like not safe for work stuff. You wouldn't be interested.
Don't speak too soon.
Yeah, and Donut Steak on Instagram, and that's pretty much all I use. My OnlyFans is Boydonic, but I'm not using that anymore. I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's it. Twitter and Instagram, really. Donut Steak.
All right, awesome.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. I hope you are not a stranger. For everybody who has been watching and stuck with us this whole time, thank you for watching. Again, I am Brandon. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and I'm even on Grommer as well, at The Gay Body Guide. You can follow Donut on Instagram and Twitter, Donut Steak, as he posted. Give us both a follow, and for me, you can always send me a message if you have any questions. You can also go and get the guide at thegaybodyguide.com if you're interested. This talks about all of our different labels, kinks, expressions, from bears to oxes to twunks, with little descriptions and graphic meters about the physical traits of all those labels. Hope you join us again. Donut, thank you very much. Hope you have a wonderful weekend.
You as well. Thank you for having me, and bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.